G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today was the final day of qualifiers for FNCS to see if the teams either made it into the semi-finals or if they could clutch up a top 3 and make it straight into grand finals, which the big teams did. We had Clix and Tayson's team both step up and get a top 3. They're going to skip the semis. They are already in grand finals. But you guys have been asking me a lot in the comments, what about the other teams? Did Mongraal get enough points to make semi-finals? Did Letshe get semi-finals? I'm going to talk about all of that. I also want to talk about the solo cash cup because we had some big performances, including a player getting a top 20 on a Macbook. We also had some ridiculous performances from players we've come to expect like Miro. We also had a lot of players step up out of nowhere that we've never really seen before, especially on EU, the player winning on EU, never having played an event before, and the whole top 10, a lot of them being very unknown pros, which prompts always a conversation around cheating. Is it a coincidence that so many players all of a sudden are placing out of nowhere in solos? Are they just popping off? Are they just demons? Or is there something more sinister going on, which I want to talk about? Also, we had the very surprising news that Endless has shut down as an org. So we have some of the biggest pros in the world, most namely Miro, Day, and Reverse, completely free agents now. I want to talk about what's next for them and why this might happen. They looked like they were doing so well. They had one of the most stacked rosters in Fortnite, and they've shut down overnight. So if you guys don't know the format, very simply put, any team that came top 3 today in the round 4 is straight through into the grand finals. Almost all of these teams already have enough consistency points to make it into semi-finals, so that's all that really mattered for most of them, and that matters a lot. If you can skip the heats altogether, skip the reboot rounds, go straight into grands, today was the chance to step up, and a lot of the big names did. So the top 3 on NA was Mega, Rokane, and Dubs in first place on 178, insane consistency from them. Narwhal, Divine, and Zlem in second on 170, and of course the big names Creo, Bucky, and Clix on 169, straight through into the grand finals. They got a 4th in week 1 and a 3rd in week 3 and didn't play in week 2. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of memes about them splitting up, about them not playing together, having chemistry issues, and some of you guys believe that. I told you in the video, 99.9% sure that it was all jokes, and clearly it was. Their chemistry couldn't be any better. They looked so good today. Out of Steamy Stacks as well, a lot of their games, they just came out with complete shambles loot. Their first game, their worst game was 22nd place with 2 elims, but the zone pulled, literally, I say this a lot, to Narnia. They were in Steamy, and the last zone was completely in the water down near Slurpee, so complete opposite zones. They basically played their finals with 5 games, and with those 5 games, they absolutely dominated. It did come down to some clutch Storm Surge tags from Bucky. He made a tweet showing off the ice in his veins, and honestly, I was impressed. I watched this live where that Storm Surge could have taken them out, and if they went down in that game, if they didn't at least get that 3 elim 12th, they would not have qualified. We obviously saw recently when Bucky's team didn't make it through to round 4 the week before, so last week, it came down to a lack of Storm Surge tags in their final game, but I had to step up and defend Bucky and show that it was just a lot of non-registering shots. Luckily, that didn't plague them today, and they are straight through in. I do want to hype up these other teams though, Mega, Dubs, and Rokane. A lot of people having the same conversation. You hear it a lot. Oh, Dubs and Mega are washed. I've been saying it for a while now. They don't post on social media a lot. They stay real quiet. They are quiet grinders behind the scene, but they are very much still top tier teams in NA East and top tier players. They did kind of start off the season a little bit quiet. I'm not going to lie to you, but in the qualifiers for round 3 yesterday, I did point out they came 21st. I said they're looking pretty good. They came 17th in session 2 as well, so they've kind of been on a bit of a roll there, but their other placements this season have been, not the greatest. They got a 31st in the last Cash Cup and 44th, and then the qualifier week 1 in session 4, they came 30th, so they made the round 4, but they came 30th, so whatever they did, they shaped it up, and a lot of it is going to come down to being uncontested. All 3 of these teams are uncontested. We also had Narwhal, Divine, and Zlem, more of an underrated team that I imagine a lot of you guys maybe haven't heard about, but I've been following for a long time. Very up and coming grinders who, if you follow the comp scene, you've definitely heard about, but probably weren't the first team to place in a top 3. I mean, I did in yesterday's video call out Clix and Dubs as 2 potential teams that I could see really pop off today and qualify. I didn't really have Narwhal too much on my radar. I'm a sucker for Narwhal's team because I'm just a huge fan of them, but they showed up big and I'm super proud of them. Outside of the top 3, like I said, it doesn't matter too much. The only other team that really needed a big performance was Slick's team. Slick, Shark, and Goku only formed this week, which means they don't have any consistency points. So they basically had to get a top 15 today in round 4 to make heats. Otherwise, they were just not playing. And they did. They managed to clutch up a 7th place. I do need to give a shout out to D-Roller, Spegu, and Charlie. They came 4th. They were so close to qualifying, and they did it being contested every single game at the IO house on Kami Split. So right there near retail. They managed to go toe-to-toe in a 3v3, 6 games, and still almost qualify. Huge achievement by them. It was only in their first game where they went down in 33rd. They went down on spawn, so they basically did it with 5 games and almost clutched up. I'm super proud of them. We had our French-Canadian team, Beef, Lupin, and Zucky come in 5th. We then had Magnolia's team in 6th, and of course, unfortunately, OCE in 8th. At one point, OCE was actually in 1st. We had Muzz, Looter, and Speedy after a 4 elim 2nd, 7 elim 4th, and 4 elim 6th in the lead, and unfortunately, the last 3 games went downhill. They will be making heats, like I've already said, so we'll get to see how they play out another set lobby. That was their first time playing in a set lobby since getting to NA East, and getting 1st place after 3 games. I was really proud of them, and I know they're going to make it through semis. Moving over on to EU, we had such a ridiculously dominant performance from Andelix's team. Andelix, Forziar, and XSweez coming in 1st on 234 points. Look at this match history. 10 elim 2nd, 15 elim win, a 0 elim 26. This was a weird one. They took an aggressive fight near Slurpee. They got held by like 2 or 3 teams in Storm for such a long time. They were trying to reboot. Freemox team was trying to reboot. It was all kinds of crazy. Then they got a 12 elim 3rd, 11 elim 6th, and 11 elim 2nd, and then a 6 elim 6th. Like, this team was ridiculous. No argument. Best team on the day. We also had Veno, Tayson, and Riddiman in 2nd on 193. 6 matches played, of course. An average placement of 5th. An average placement of 5th in a 6-round set lobby finals. Ridiculous from them. I would like to point out, I said 2 teams yesterday's video would guarantee qualify. I said I would be incredibly shocked if at least Forziar and Tayson's team didn't qualify. Both top 2. I don't gloat about it too much, but you know, I watched a lot of Fortnite and I was pretty proud that I called this one. The 3rd place team though, ridiculous performance from them, but on the back of a huge last game pop-off, we had Fast Rocky, Karma, and Void get a 10 elim win in game 6 to just jump up into qualification. They only qualified by, what is that? My math's on the best, 7 points, and they got a 10 elim win in their last game, just skyrocketing up the leaderboard. Super proud of them. We had Sapphic, Centric, and Putric. Centric being default's team in 4th, just missing out. Gut-wrenching from them. We had One Last, Podesai, and Nikov in 5th. We had Paco, MXR's team in 6th. We had Amplify, ADN, and Matzo. We had Link, Fury, and Rezumi, Blaster, Yagsua, and Nakos, and then Bloomy, Pablo, and Tomziachi. So, pretty rough one for obviously Sapphics team. They just fell short. They were doing so well the whole tournament until their last 2 games. A 25th and a 14th place did cost it for them, but they will be in a semifinals. The big team, similar to Slicks, that really needed a performance to qualify, they just had to get top 20, was Wolfie, Letwick, and Freemock, because they just dropped their teammate of Mr. J and picked up Letwick. So again, no series points. They needed a top 20 to qualify, and they came in 19th on 75 points. So Freemock will be going through into the semifinals. I also just wanted to include in here as well, because I talked about it in a video recently and you guys were super supportive in the comments, like I was, of just how good Veno is as a player. Unfortunately, he's been struggling with a lot of nerves. I think trying to live up to the reputation of playing with Tayson and Riddiman. They came 4th in week 1, 5th in week 2. Pressure was getting on to get a top 3 now, but game 5, the 10 elim win, their 1 victory out, came down to a 1v1 between Veno and the last player, and Veno stepped up when he needed to and got the victory out. I want to include that in there. I don't know if Veno watches my videos, but make sure you're supporting my man, because he is popping off and he very much deserves to be playing with Tayson and Riddiman. Even if he doesn't realize it, even if he doesn't think he's good enough, you and me, we all know that he is. Now, I've been talking a lot about who made semifinals and who didn't, and some of you guys might still be confused. I've already talked about the format in previous videos. I've been talking about it a lot in this video. The top 3 from last grand finals already through into this grand finals. The top 3 from the last 3 weeks round 4s are already in the grand finals. The next 99 most consistent teams throughout the weeks are now into the semifinals. We don't have an official list yet, but you've probably seen a bunch of people already talking about it, because we have people in the scene like Kinch Analytics that can run the statistics statistics, they have the leaderboard, they crunch the numbers, and they know who makes top 99. Now, I'm not going to talk about it too much today because you'll probably see a lot of pros talking about which heat they're in, which drop spot they have. You guys, if you've been watching my videos for a while now, know how much of a nightmare this week is for one main reason. If one player gets banned or disqualified, the entire heat list changes because it's not official. What Kinch has done is he's taken the actual, the official leaderboard of points of who made it through, and then he's seeded it the same way that Epic says they're going to seed it. So, as of right now, the list is correct, but as of almost every previous FNCS, when I've literally made entire 30-minute videos talking about who drops where and who's versing who, and it changes. So I'm waiting until we get the official list to talk about who is dropping where and who is versing who. Are we going to get Macwood and P-God in the same semifinals? Who's going to be contesting? All that crazy stuff. Those videos will come, but I am not making the same mistake twice of making a whole video off the unofficial list and it changes. But it means we do know which teams have qualified. I'm not going to go through all of them because, again, I don't know who you care most about making it through. The big names like Mongraal, like Letshe, don't worry, they are through. They are in the top 99. Basically, anyone who made a round 4 is going to get top 99 unless they split up as a team. Any team you've watched who's played since the first week, if they've been playing decent, getting round 3s and round 4s consistently, they are in. But I will put a link down below to the official series point leaderboard. You can check for any of your favorite teams to make sure they're already through. I will be making a bunch of videos on heats because it's coming up this weekend. I'm super hyped, but just so you guys know, that's why today's video might not be talking about who's dropping on who and who's versing who. We just don't know yet. Moving on to the solo cash cup, I normally don't focus on this too much, especially when FNCS is on, but there's a few placements I really wanted to call out. Mainly Diego Plays FN, who placed top 20 on NA East, earning $200, his first earnings off a MacBook. And now, this is an Apple MacBook run on, obviously, a MacBook monitor. It has a 60 hertz monitor, and I don't even know what delay time. I actually reached out to Diego myself to be like, hey, mate, what kind of frame rate do you get? He's like, look, sometimes I get around 100 to 150 frames, but the biggest issue being, because the PC is so unstable, it will just plummet my frames right into the ground as soon as I go to peak on, and I'll go down to like 20 or 30 frames. He's like, I can't even clip my gameplay, because if I play an actual game, like an arena or a tournament, I can't even run the clipping software without my PC crashing. So I know a lot of you guys out here are going to be like, look, I run on a $500 laptop that's basically a toaster that my uncle gave me, because I get it. Everyone has a bad setup, or a lot of you guys do, but I still want to celebrate how ridiculous it is to place off a MacBook, one of the worst devices for gaming in history. I've been hyping up console gang. It looks like I'm now hyping up Team Apple. You got to remember as well, this is on NA East. He managed to get only 2 points less than Clix and Tayson. Let that sink in. My man got 2 points less than Clix and Tayson on a MacBook. Hats off to you, Diego, man. Good performance. That's ridiculous. Now, I want to make this very, very clear before I talk about the rest of these placements and a lot of these players. I am not accusing any of them of hacking. I am not saying I have any evidence of them hacking. I'm not saying that anyone is saying they have evidence of these players hacking. What I'm saying is we have seen a massive rise in players placing, especially in solo cash cups, seemingly out of nowhere. This can be due just to the fact that maybe they don't have good teammates. There's a lot of RNG in solos. Maybe they just showed up, they woke up, and they just were ridiculous on the day. That is very, very possible. So do not see any of these players, or if you know any of these players, and say, oh my gosh, you must be cheating. But I want to talk about this topic of just how many players are coming out of nowhere and placing sometimes even first in cash cups, and we've seemingly not only never heard of them, but even going off their previous placements, it would be an insane performance on the day. So if we look at NA East, we managed to have Miro come in second, just missing out on the back-to-back NA East solo cash cups. He is looking ridiculous right now, but we have a player called E13, and I haven't heard about this player too much. Looked it up. They have $1,800 in earnings, but that is including the $600 they won from coming first in this solo cash cup. And if you go through their placements, you know, they're not a complete nobody. They didn't just come out of nowhere like EU. I'll talk about that in a second, where he only has literally one event played. He's been playing comp for quite a while, but when you go from placing, you know, 537th in solo cash cup, 222nd, and then you get a first, that could be doable. You could argue that that is just, you know, one really good performance on the day. My man stepped up and popped off. So I want to make it very clear, I'm not calling out E13. I don't know them at all. It's just starting to tell this story that people are starting to get very suspicious of anyone who performs out of nowhere. nowhere. There's a lot of talk about, people soft aiming, getting ESP hacks. I'm not going to advertise hacks, but it is very clear that it's getting a bit out of control right now. I even talked about how there is entire Discords used to promote these. They're now making accounts, stream sniping and targeting pros, and just even straight up hacking on stream to promote selling hacks. Like, Fortnite is starting to get a bit scarier. This could be due to a decline in Warzone's player base. Again, we saw that Apex Legends had a 300, or I think it was even more % increase in people searching for Apex Legends hacks as Warzone went downhill. Maybe some of those players coming to Fortnite, don't know, but out of nowhere, hacking has seemed to have gotten really, really out of control. If we look at EU, first place, we have a player called Alba Yamari. This is their first tournament ever played. One event, $750 earned, first place on EU. That is starting to get more suspicious. Maybe it's an alt account, maybe it's a pro we don't know about, I don't know. But obviously, that is raising suspicion. And it's not just that as well. If you look at the rest of the EU leaderboard, it's a lot of names you probably haven't heard of. You'll see some in there as well, and I don't want to ego anyone, but obviously I've seen Trident, I see Podesai. There's some names, but for the most part, a lot of the people doing insanely well right now in solo cash cups are seemingly to getting really, really good out of nowhere. It could just be they've been grinding really hard. Maybe they got a coach. Maybe they just had a really good day. I need to make that very clear. I'm not accusing all of these people of cheating. I would imagine that at least maybe 90% of them aren't cheating. But the fear is there's at least a few, because right now it is seemingly statistically impossible to have all these players going from getting sometimes even top 5,000s in solo cash cups to then all of a sudden getting top 5s. Like, that is a ridiculous improvement that at least makes people suspicious. So I don't know if Epic's going to make a statement. I don't know if we're going to see something soon, but I'm starting to notice a trend and a very slippery slope of a lot of things happening that making me a bit scared for the anti-cheat in Fortnite. I've been one of the main defenders of Fortnite's anti-cheat, but there's something going on here. In org news, we have the pretty surprising announcement, or lack of announcement, that Endless has completely shut down. And the reason why I say lack of announcement, if you go to Endless's Twitter, there is nothing. Their most recent tweet as of me filming this video was them saying, yo, they have now gone down to 0 following. They're not following any of their members anymore. But we learned this because of all the players. All the players started making free agent posts saying that Endless has disbanded. I would have liked to see some kind of announcement from Endless, which a lot of people are now suspicious that maybe this isn't Endless shutting down. It might be a rebrand. Endless has already rebranded in the past. They could potentially do it again, but dropping your entire roster to rebrand, including a team that consists of 2 times FNCS winners of the same team. I'm trying to think if there's any other team. No, there isn't. There's no other team that's won 2 FNCSs while still together as the same team. Like, you technically had the best team in the world and you've now dropped them, or you've disbanded. And, this is now left Reverse 2K, Day, Miro, Tragics, Kenny, so many big players. Obviously, they had editors, they had a whole team of players and staff, and they're all now without orgs. And I'm not going to hate on Endless for doing this. I hope they communicated this to the players as early as possible, but business is business, and sometimes things go wrong very quickly. I'm guessing if you had to ask me why this is, how can an org that has so many big names and so many big players just shut down out of nowhere? I talk about this on the stream a lot. Orgs are not profitable for the most part. They just aren't. Right now, a lot of orgs are running at a loss. So you might think, Aussie, why are they doing it then? A lot of them are investing in the future. The fact that esports right now is on a pretty crazy trajectory, if it gets to the point of being like a real sport or like a normal sport, and it's worth, the whole industry gets to be worth hundreds of billions, upwards of trillions of dollars, that the ones who invested early are going to reap the benefits of that. A lot of people are just passionate. You've got org owners out there like Nadeshot with 100 Thieves, like Lockie with Power, who quite often are content creators, or they're in the scene, they're esports players, and they just want to get involved, and they absolutely love gaming and they want to see it do well. So they're willing to take that financial hit. Hopefully they make the money back later, but it's just a passion thing. So it doesn't mean that Endless was doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean they weren't doing things well at all. Maybe they, nothing shady could have been going on. Sometimes it's just a business that doesn't work out, and it's a really, really tough industry. We had Hantao again, which is obviously big in crucial role of overtime. He has been doing a bunch for overtime for a really long time, knows the scene incredibly well. He came out and made a bunch of statements about the situation. He said, my thoughts on the Endless situation, a thread about teams in general. If you're thinking of starting a team with no money, don't don't. There are others that have millions over you. If you have the money, don't start one unless you have an advisor or actually listen to the people you know. At the end of the day, money isn't printed like that. It belongs to someone. That someone will see money going out, also the money coming in. Eventually, they'll see if those balance out, and then decision making happens. Alas, here we are with multiple teams in the com, and a lot of them are shutting down. You've seen a lot of teams just not make it. They start up, they get funding, they get really excited, they get a bunch of big pros, a bunch of big names, they get a bunch of content going, and then things kind of fall flat. And this could also be because we have no LAN events. That right now with COVID, it's all online. Fortnite survives decently well in that ecosystem because a lot of their tournaments are already online, but in other esports, more conventional esports, this is struggling. You know, a lot of orgs will get sponsors who want to put, you know, their names on their jersey. They want to get some kind of recognition and advertising. A lot of that comes from big LAN events and not online events. So sad to see it happen. Not super surprised. I hope this doesn't happen to more other orgs. We obviously have big names coming in like Falcon who are pumping a bunch of money into the scene. I really hope Day, Mirror, and Reverse get picked up by a ridiculous org. I think they should. I'm looking at orgs like Falcon to maybe make their move into NA East, because you've got three of the most valuable free agents in the world all on the same team as well. I'm expecting a very big move from somebody. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on anything I talked about today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.